Welcome back, every single person that is subscribed to this podcast. Thank you. Welcome back to the Pine. Interact with us on SoundCloud, Twitter, IG, on YouTube. SoundCloud, The Real Pine, on Twitter at The Pine Pod, on Instagram at The Pine Podcast, on YouTube at The Pine Podcast. I am joined with the other members of The Pine who provide you unfiltered, intelligent thought. Jay and Chloe, how you guys doing today?
Doing well, kicking it, as always.
JR, real name, no gimmicks in the building, boy. What's up? How y'all doing? How y'all feeling? How was your Mother's Day weekend? Mother's Day
was straight. I can't complain. I would never be in the car for that long, that short period of time again. I drove to see my mom. She lives in Savannah. And it was cool to see her for Mother's Day, bro. I can't complain. Chloe, what about you?
Nice. I had to work. That's okay though. That paycheck's gonna be nice and thick on Friday. But I did get a chance to call my mom. She was on the road going to my sister's track meet. My sister competed at the Big 12 Outdoor Championship. So shout out to the University of Oklahoma. Very excited to see what they do in the postseason. They qualified for regionals in Sacramento. So they're getting ready for that. But that was awesome. Cool Mother's Day present for her. My sister definitely upstaged me on that front. But it's all right. But yeah, other than that, called her, wished her happy Mother's Day, and yeah.
As you guys all know, I follow you intensely on social media. It's not creepy or anything. I just follow y'all because I care about y'all, love y'all. I brought you guys into my circle. And Jay, I saw you post something on your IG in regards to Mother's Day. Would you mind talking about that?
Sure. I mean, my mother passed away 14 years ago. So Mother's Day hits a little differently for me. But I've had a lot of people in my life and families, and I have a lot of adopted mothers. So I still celebrate and show my love and appreciation to all those women who have been in my life and have played that role for a little while. But yeah, it just hits a little different for me, but it doesn't detract from it for other people. So I always have love for everybody else and seeing everybody else's love and celebration and that joy is great to see. But it hits a little differently for me. But as time goes on, it gets a little bit easier. But it's something that you'll never forget, and you always have to navigate.
Jay, a lot of people love you. I love you. And I want to just say I'm thankful that you are on this earth and that your mom took the time to think about you and bring you here so I could interact with you and so you can talk to the people. So I appreciate it.
Yeah. And
shout out to you.
Thank you for sharing your story. I know, I'm sure it's difficult for you and for a lot of people out there that have lost their mothers on Mother's Day. But thank you for, allowing us to listen to your story. I know that's probably pretty vulnerable to do, but I appreciate that.
No, and I appreciate y'all, but enough with the mushy stuff. Let's get with the
we're gonna get right
into it.
So mothers are absolutely important on this planet for procreation, for their nurturing demeanors, the support that they provide, and there was a piece of legislation that was passed. And most of the people on this podcast have roots in Georgia. And this piece of legislation was passed in Georgia. It's known as the Heartbeat Bill. Recently elected Governor Brian Kemp of Georgia, he signed one of the most restrictive abortion laws in the nation. And the law bans abortions after 6 weeks of pregnancy. And this period of time is normally when you do, baby monitoring through your pregnancy, you can detect a heartbeat. I asked a lot of women about this. I know some women personally who have, been in situations where, they have a newborn on the way, they're in the early parts of their pregnancy, how they felt. And I got a lot of mixed responses, but I want to ask you guys how you feel.
Well, just in terms of certain parts of the bill, it does have me worried as a Georgia resident. I think the thing that struck me the most was, it's when it comes to miscarrying. If a woman miscarries, she could be sent to prison for I forget how many years at a time, but that just worries me because with first of all, miscarriages is already a sensitive subject. You know, it's one of, like, with miscarriages, you don't plan for the baby to die, you know, and it happens so suddenly. And it's like you're already going through the physical and emotional trauma that comes with that. And then on top of that, it's punishable by law, but it was never, you know, it was not something that you controlled necessarily. So to punish somebody off that really bothers me. And I know with abortion, it is a sensitive subject in its own right. You know, there are people that, you know, sit on the pro-life side of the fence, and there are people that sit on the pro-choice side of the fence. So abortion is always going to be one of those subjects where you're going to hear from both sides of the conversation. I think instead of punishing people for abortion or for miscarriages, we could do a lot of more constructive things like sex education, or, you know, supporting women who are actively going through the pregnancy. I don't know. It's just, I don't necessarily know if being punitive and restrictive is going to be something that protects a woman's health necessarily. I don't think it's going to be something that helps in any kind of dialogue, no matter where you sit on the conversation. And I just think it makes it that much more, I don't know if taboo is the right word, but I just think it makes it that much harder to have a conversation with somebody about these issues. So that's where I sit on that situation. I just don't necessarily think that this bill is going to do anything constructive for Georgians.
Jay, what are your thoughts?
I agree. It's just another instance of men telling women what they can and can't do with their bodies, and then putting legal action behind it. Like, that's ridiculous. It's wild to think about. And then when you look at just the different measures, like the punitive measures for it, you know, life in prison. If you leave the state and do that, it's 10 years. It's, if you have an accidental one, they still consider it like a manslaughter. Like, you know what I'm saying? You're talking about conspiracy to murder, all these other pieces. Like, and it encompasses pretty much any kind of scenario. So like a woman being pregnant through rape or sexual assault, they're trapped, and with legal action against them if they choose to terminate that. And that's ridiculous, especially when you're seeing news stories from around the country, like the bus driver who raped the 14-year-old girl and got her pregnant, but he just got probation. Like, he didn't even go to jail. Like, what is happening? What is happening in this country that we are getting together and making these kind of decisions, these finite decisions on behalf of women without any consultation or any real discussion about it, to the detriment of those said women. And then it's this puritanical, nonsensical, just ridiculous mindset, and we got to get past it. We have to. And I just got to.
Oh, sorry. I just feel like there's a lot of questions that aren't going to be answered as well. Like, with overpopulation in prisons, you know, this is not gonna make it any better. So like, what happens with that? You'll have a lot of people serving time in prison that's not necessarily warranted. And, you know, there's just a lot of issues with this, like in terms of, you know, like, is it going to be disproportionate if like black and brown women are sent to prison more often than white women, like as a result of this bill? I totally lost my train of thought on this one.
Well,
here's my big thing with it.
Real quick, to your point again, like, so we talk about the miscarriage piece, right? You know, a lot of women are not even recognizing that they are pregnant, or doctors aren't seeing women until, you know, 7, 8, 9 weeks into a pregnancy, mm-hmm. right? So, you know, you're 6 weeks in and you don't know, but maybe you go and you're out at a bar drinking. Like, this is a real crude example, but like, go out bar drinking, you know, like just living your life, whatever it is, and then you end up having a miscarriage. So you're going to be held responsible for that when you didn't even know you were pregnant.
Here's the big picture problem with this piece of legislation. we haven't figured out abortion as it is in the country, and now we're moving the time frame forward. The old law was between 12 and 22 weeks, and now you're pushing it to 6 weeks. So it effectively gives an individual who's in a difficult situation less time to determine what she wants to do with her body and what decisions she's going to make moving forward. Because when you have a child, it's a life-altering thing. That's the problem. That's my biggest beef with the bill. I already had issues with abortion, and of course, you can pick, which side you stand on it. But now we're moving the issue and the time to think about it and discuss it forward. And that doesn't make sense to me. I have to give a shout out to some of the film companies that said, and they're not major production companies, but there's some film companies and businesses that say, we won't do work in Georgia. And I think the solution, and as we've seen the solution most of the times, when people make decisions like this, is to hit them in their pockets. And hopefully this will affect it. There's going to be obviously backlash, but it's just, the timing is bad. Just close to Mother's Day. It is like a really interesting timing for this whole thing. And you're pushing it forward, and you're not saying, all right, we're gonna do 18 weeks, and then we can talk about it. You're going forward 6 weeks, where you can't really fathom the idea or thought most of the time that you're actually bringing life into this world. So it's definitely ridiculous.
I think the sad part is like having to hit the state, the legislator, like having to hit them in the pockets and mess with the money to be able to get to bring this back to a discussion is wild, right? Because we know that's how things operate. And if a lot of major companies or Disney were to come out and say, yeah, we're not filming any movies in Georgia
no more
anymore,
Avengers in Georgia anymore.
Right? Like, and we know that would bring discussion back up. But like, the sad part about it is, what about all those people that would be affected by that?
Financially.
Yeah, and then
just because of the legislation. Go ahead.
And then like I just saw some other questions I had going back to what I was saying earlier. Like, what is the man an accessory? Like, if his significant other could not have a child or didn't want to have a child, it's like, for people who are pro-life, once the baby is born, like, are we going to support this baby from infancy all the way into adulthood? Like, is there going to be a proper education system for every child? Like, what about, poor families? Like, because I feel like this leads into a welfare issue. And like, there are a lot of issues.
You have to have infrastructure.
That's what I'm saying. Like, this leads to an education issue. This is a food issue. This is a welfare issue. And it's just like, I feel like as a country, we're so focused on the fetus. But once the child is here, it's like, what happens to that support, Or then like adoption as well. It's like, what if the mom can't raise the child and like gives it up to adoption? Like, we've seen the horrors of, what could happen in a foster home or a group home or orphanages. It's like, you have, like, it's a multi-layered issue, and I just feel like nothing's necessarily being solved with this bill. And if anything, it just raises more questions and more eyebrows.
Especially
pushing it forward.
Yeah, it's just the mindset. Like, yes, the 6 weeks. That's a heartbeat. That fetus. It's the most important thing in the world. You will go to jail for your life. Okay, now it's born. Well.
And like, what if
fend for yourself, buddy.
And what if the woman that's incarcerated has other kids to feed? And it's like, what if she's a single mom? Like, what happens to those kids? Like, there's a lot of questions.
There are.
I don't know. It's mind-boggling.
We will continue the discussion on the pond, and we will try to come up with solutions. That's what we do, solution-oriented. That's why the discussion is happening. We're going to keep it pushing, though. And we're going to keep it hot button topics. Not as important as this abortion bill, but still a discussion about women's feelings, how they feel in certain situations, women in certain arenas in their lives, in support of their husbands. I'm bringing up Ayesha Curry and Stephen Curry. Everybody has probably seen or heard, whether you're interested or not, about Ayesha Curry's statements on the Red Table Talk, which is a Facebook show that Jada Pinkett Smith does with her daughter Willow Smith and also her mother. I know you guys have probably heard about it on social media. If you're on social media, you probably heard about what she said. And what are your thoughts and what are your feelings on her take on wanting attention while her husband is in the limelight and spotlight and garnering that attention.
You are now listening to the
I didn't see it. First of all, it was only 30 seconds in the entire interview. I actually watched the Red Table Talk over the weekend on Facebook, and it was only 30 seconds in the entire interview. I feel like people are blowing things out of proportion with Ayesha. Like, I kind of get what she's saying. Like, for me, I personally don't like catcalling. It makes me uncomfortable. But Ayesha just wants to know that she's feeling appreciated by her husband. It's like, you know, I couldn't imagine being a basketball wife, especially in an age where social media is so dominant in our culture. You know, I couldn't imagine the stress of having a significant other wondering if other girls are, you know, swarming him around like after the games or even like courtside. And, you know, for me, I've personally seen this working in the industry. You know, some girls, you know, are waiting courtside to talk to someone after the game, you know, whether or not they know that this person is dating somebody or not. Or, you know, even if they go out places, like who's to say like someone's not talking to them in the club or like trying to sneak up to their hotel room and like call in the lobby, seeing like where so-and-so's staying. Like, these are real things that happen. And, you know, as a basketball wife, I'm sure it's stressful. And especially being married to someone who is a 3-time NBA champion, who has one of the highest selling jerseys in the league. Like, he's a notable face around the world in basketball. And I felt like with Ayesha, she just wanted to be appreciated. I think it was just something she said, I guess casually. I don't know if I would necessarily say it in jest, but I think it was just one of those things like, well, I want to know that I still got it. It was one of those things. And I feel like this time every year in the playoffs, you know, Ayesha says something and people take it to a whole different dimension.
Is Ayesha gaslighting us? Like, every time her husband's in the playoffs, she just says something and then the attention goes back to the family?
I don't know, one year it was the refs and people got mad saying that, like, she was like, the refs are rigged. And I'm like, she could say that, like, she's a fan of the game. Like, it's not gonna make me think any differently about what the refs called that night, but okay, like, cool. And then in terms of like women dressing modestly, that was a controversial thing that she said and people called her out for it. But I just feel like every year it's like we're always harping on Ayesha's case for something she said. And I mean,
I talked about it in my personal life enough where I didn't want to put it on the pod, but I felt like it was important too.
But the reality is, the other reality is it does seem like every year around this time she does say something or gets media attention. I don't think that's intentional, but it's just it's coincidental. It is coincidental that it seems like every year,
right
about this time. But I agree, Chloe. I didn't understand why people made such a big deal out of it, but I also let me say what I'm saying first. I didn't see why people made such a big deal out of it. I also think that Ayesha Curry can't win for losing, because she is a lightning rod for everybody's hate when she speaks up. For some reason, I couldn't tell you why. I don't know if it's the envy, it's jealousy, they just don't agree. I don't know what it is. They just don't like she light skinned. I don't know what to tell you. But it seems like that seems to be the case. When she speaks up about something, it's just this visceral reaction on one end or the other without fail. And it's either all support or it's all hate. And I can't pinpoint what it is. But to what she actually said, you know...
I'll read a quote for you. She said, "Something that really bothers me, and honestly has given me a sense of a little bit of insecurity, is the fact that, there are all these women like throwing themselves at Steph, but me, like the past 10 years, I don't have any of that." Ayesha explained that she has zero, and she said this may sound weird, but zero male attention. And so she begins to internalize it, and she's like, is there something wrong with me?
Yep. And
that was a quote.
I think everybody wants to be appreciated. Everybody wants to be seen and thought of, and I don't know if everybody wants to be sexualized, but they want to be appreciated and thought of. And so to her point, I can identify, I can see where she's coming from, but I also think from the man perspective, I think just people don't sexualize her and don't look at her that way, right? Like she's like she's a very attractive woman, beautiful woman, a mother, wife of the year, homemaker. Like she makes that family whole. Like, right. She is a strong strong, independent,
foundational
beautiful,
woman.
foundational woman, and men just not trying to disrespect her in that way.
Right.
And that sounds wild, but when you have this oversaturation, especially in this social media area on Instagram, where every woman is half naked with a Fashion Nova ad or whatever that may be, like. Yeah, they see her and it's like, all right, well, I mean, you're married, got kids, you're an amazing husband who can shoot 30-foot threes. You're an amazing woman. You do all these great things. Like, we good. I'm not trying to disrespect you in that way. But now, if you say that and open it up, now I'm pretty sure her DMs are a foul place to live in the past week or two, because people now are just going all in on that, right? Going complete overboard. Because does she say that she wishes she had some of that attention? Yeah, does it mean that she wants you to act on that? No.
Yeah.
And here's the thing.
At.
If I broke the quote down, because most of the time when I was having a discussion with people, I didn't have what she said in front of me, right? And so it was a reactionary thing. And I think that's what we've seen from the majority of the populace that paid attention to the story. But as a man, when we hear our woman or a woman saying, hey, these women are throwing themselves at you. When women throw themselves at men, most of the time it's not very smooth. Women are very careful with how they do that. When women are throwing yourself, like as a groupie throwing themselves at it, it's like the girl in Orca Arena in the blue dress.
Unless you're a celebrity, right? or somebody of note.
I was about to say,
no, well, you don't have to be a celebrity or somebody of note. You could be an attractive person. You know what I'm saying?
It's a little different, and
it's definitely different.
We all have experience in this industry to know the difference.
Yeah, but you don't have to be a superstar to have women throw themselves at you.
No, not at all.
You just have to have some notoriety and money.
Some notoriety, and so if you have some notoriety, or you're attractive, or you're personable, sometimes it happens. And you know, when I flipped it in my head, I was like, well, that type of behavior from the opposite sex is like sometimes really like aggressive. You know what I mean? So do you really want that? Do you really want that? It's my initial reaction. But after speaking to women, and Chloe, we had the discussion off wax, that it may not be that assertive, right? It could just be like, she makes eye contact with somebody. The layers of it for me is that, as a man, you hear your wife say she wants attention, and it makes you feel like you're not doing something, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, I think
that's the trigger.
When we hear attention, we process that differently as men and women. Right. We process that very differently. But I think a salient point that I might not use that word properly. A point that I don't think I've really seen anybody talk about is we don't know what happens in their home. We assume.
We don't.
That Steph is a great husband and gives her all the attention in the world, and he's rich and he's a celebrity and does all this stuff because they present this very welcoming family. We don't know if she feels like she's neglected. We don't know that. Like, we don't know what happens behind the scenes. So that might have been a real thing of her. Like,
that's why I try to make it real. That's why I try to make it real life. You know what I mean?
And to Jay's point, I think a lot of people got too caught up in the weeds about what she said versus like, it's basically one of those things where, let's say if Steph committed the unfortunate atrocity and cheated, right? If he cheated with somebody, it's like, maybe it was me. I think maybe that's her thought process. It's like, maybe I wasn't pretty enough for him.
Why would he have to go to cheating?
No, because that's the thing, right? It's like all these people, all these women are throwing themselves at Steph. Like, let's say Steph gave into that and committed adultery. Like,
but she clearly says these women are throwing themselves at Steph. And I know he won't cheat, but I don't have any of that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but that might be the underlying thought. It's like, if he were to do it, maybe it's me. Maybe I'm not good enough for him, and that's where my insecurity lies. Like, am I good enough for my husband? I need to know that. I think that's what Ayesha was trying to say.
Yeah, she showed a vulnerable moment for 30 seconds.
She did.
Yeah.
And people destroyed her for it.
In the playoffs.
And that's the thing, I feel like a lot of celebrities.
In the playoffs.
I think about Beyonce and a lot of this stuff, because like Beyonce was cheated on. And, we wanted to know play by play. Like, we wanted to know why Solange was up at that elevator, like, nuck if you buck, right? And Beyonce came out with an album instead. And I think
she profited off of her pain, right?
Well, that's not where I was getting to. But in 2012, I think she alluded to this. It's like, it's not your business. Things like this is exactly why celebrities don't allow us into their lives. Like, this is why not every celebrity is going to be as authentic with you as you would like them to be. Because it's like, they don't need 55 million people jumping on them who don't even know them, don't even know their story, don't even know like what they have to deal with internally to pass judgment the way that people have been passing the past couple of days about this. So, it's like for Ayesha to be vulnerable and still get, thrown, run through the ringer. I mean, it's...
Yeah, she got a lot of attention. She got what she asked for, right? And indirectly. Then she got thrown in the ringer. Then she also got a lot of support. So it's really interesting.
Yeah, and I don't know. I just feel like,
got backlash from women too. Women backlash.
Which is crazy because
really weird.
I don't know. And then someone made a comment like, this is why Ayesha doesn't get catcalled. Like, she's out here. I think that the tweet was like along the lines of she wears a Mormon dress to the beach. And it's like someone clapped back and was like, okay, on the one hand, y'all wanted somebody who, wore a bathing suit to the beach. And then on the other hand, on the one hand, like, you're making fun of somebody who wears a swimsuit somewhere. And then on the other hand, you're making fun of somebody who's clothed. Like, one week y'all say y'all want a girl that holds you down the way Lauren London held Nipsey down. The next week y'all bash another woman. Like, what is it? Like, what do y'all want? Because, I just feel like people are just never going to be satisfied, honestly.
Well,
that's the universal language between men and women.
Here's the thing. One, looking at what people say on social media and how it translates into an actual relationship, you got to take that with a grain of salt. That's how I feel. Social media is artificial. So when people take the time to think about what they write, they're trying to elicit a response. So anything that somebody says on social media in regards to what they want, most of the times is like a cry for help. Like, if you're really out here trying, you probably like maybe having these conversations on the phone, one-on-one with somebody, or in person with somebody. It's just different. But also, social media is a part of our lives, right? So it gives a platform for everybody to discuss.
But I also think it's colored some people's perspectives, and like they've adopted some of that. They've adopted some of that into their lives. So, that facade or that I don't remember what word you said, but that's become authentic for them. Like, that's become reality for them. That perception has become reality.
We're going to keep it moving. We're going to keep it moving. We're going to keep it moving. We're going to keep it moving to another. It's not even controversial. It is quite interesting. And Chloe, I want you to take the lead on this because this is your hometown. This is what you used to do. This is what you love. Matthew Boling,
yes,
is setting records. People have deemed him the White Lightning of the high school track and field circuit. He is committed to the University of Georgia. Guys, what is your take on this guy, Matthew Boling, taking the world by storm?
Yeah, Matthew Boling, for those unaware, he is a senior at Strake Jesuit College Prep in the fabulous city of Houston, Texas. He became viral after running a 9.98 in the men's 100-meter dash at the UIL regionals in Texas. He was a Sports Center top 10.
Chloe, break it down though.
Yeah.
Chloe, break it down. He's not just running the 9.98. Like, their brother's running behind him.
Right. So like, that's the thing. It's like, I feel like for a lot of people, it's like, yo, like, this white kid can run. Like, and it's not just the fact that he ran below 10 seconds. I mean, well, one, he was 0.3 of a second off what Usain Bolt ran in 2008, but he also ran the fastest 100-meter dash in high school history in all conditions. So it's a crazy, crazy feat. And you guys, and for people who don't know the state of Texas, like, the state of Texas is pretty stacked when it comes to sports, especially with football and track and field. Like, there are plenty of high schools that have like the highest caliber athletes. I think about Fort Bend Marshall. I think about DeSoto's dynasty in Texas over the past couple decades. But, for someone to come from a Catholic all-boys school, a private school in Houston, Texas, one of the only two Catholic schools in UIL, like the whole thing, not even just Class 6A, like the whole state of Texas, right? for someone to come from straight Jesuit and, you know, have the season he's having, it's remarkable. And then it's also, on a personal note, amazing to see because I went to an all-girls Catholic school. I went to St. Agnes Academy in Houston, which is right next door to straight Jesuit. And back when I was there, we actually shared the same facilities. So when I was on the track team, we used to practice with straight Jesuit track and field, and we had our own coaches, they had theirs, but, you know, I developed relationships with the coaches, particularly Coach Webster. I want to give him a shout out because he was in a car accident recently, and I hope he's doing well with his recovery. I know he was at the state championships cheering Matthew on, so I hope he's doing well. But anyways, back to Matthew. Matthew first popped on my radar when my sister was running in high school. Because, like, you know, my parents knew his parents, so, you know, they would talk about him often, about how he was doing really well in the 400 and how he was getting recruited and all this sort of stuff. And to Rossano's point, like, he committed to the University of Georgia, so he'll be in Athens next season. But this year he told his coach that he wanted to make a change in his program. He wants to run the 100 because he already does the 4x1 relay, and he just wanted to give it a shot. So at the Texas Relays, which is like the second biggest meet in America behind the Penn Relays, it's at the University of Texas at Austin. At the Texas Relays, he ran, I think, a 10:13 and won the event, which is crazy. And from then on, like, he started running the 100 in addition to the 4x1, the 4x400 meter relay, and the long jump. So he gave up the open 4 and just focused on those 4 events. From there, that's when the UIL, which is like, it's the public high school athletics association in Texas. At the regional track meet, that's when he set the 998 and made it on Sports Center. And then this past weekend was the UIL state championships, which was also at the University of Texas. Even though they were disqualified in the 4x1, he won a gold medal in the long jump, jumped like a 25-footer, I think, which is crazy. Like, this is like Olympic level stuff, people. Like, this is absolutely nuts for an 18-year-old to be doing this. He won the 100-meter dash, and then he won the 4x400 meter relay as the anchor. He was like 3 seconds behind DeSoto and passed him up at like the home stretch, and his split time was like a 44.7. So my thing is, like, I'm excited to see him.
You are, yeah. I hear this. You are like, a fan. You are sold on this.
No, like, this kid is fast. Like, this kid is absolutely ridiculous. And for him to only be 19 years old or 18 years old, not even a freshman in college yet. He's about to go into the SEC, and the SEC does not play games. You know, they have so many Olympians that have competed in the past 20 years, and it's like, he might be able to compete next year in Tokyo as a 19-year-old athlete.
I'm
That's
excited
what I ask you.
to
What
see
is
him.
what is his Olympic prospects?
Yeah, so I know.
Well, check this out though. He's a 6'2" guy. Right. So he's not. Whenever you see him on the track, he looks like smaller than everybody, right? In the video footage, but he's built for running. Like 6'2", 171 pounds. What I noticed when he runs is his form is like super tight. Chloe, I asked you about form. What makes it? How do you go faster? And you were talking about his stride, high knees, his core. Mm-hmm. Like, I seen all of that on the tape. Mm-hmm. So, but what really got me is that I always want to. We haven't heard him talk, right? I don't know any video. I don't know if you guys have seen any videos where he's speaking or doing interviews.
He hasn't. He's talked to Flow Track before. Flow Track is like an official track and field news outlet in the States.
But when he talks, when I looked at one of the interviews, and he's like a really nerdy, super nerdy kid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's what's funny about it. He's not a Dante DiVincenzo from the Milwaukee Bucks. He doesn't have a swag like that. You know what I mean? He's like, hey, yeah. I mean, I just kind of walked into this and kind of did it.
I think that's the thing for him, though. Like, I mean, straight Jesuit, when I was there, straight Jesuit was a basketball school. Like, football, they put us in the SEC of the Houston divisions, and Katy was the Alabama. And we would lose like 55-3. 55-14, and it's like, I mean, it was bad. And it's like, for me, I used to I actively would go to straight Jesuit games and, you know, try to cheer for my friends and stuff. But I was like, man, y'all, this is kind of hard, like, you know. And I did not live far from Katy High School at all. Like, Katy, I was like, shoot, I might join the Katy bandwagon. What you mean? But straight Jesuit was a basketball school, you know, like like one kid went to Duke. You know, you had a kid that ended up playing at Syracuse recently. Like Strake Jesuit wasn't necessarily known for their track team. Now they had athletes that would go on to the next level, like Columbia, or most recently Texas A&M with this kid Ilolo, who's about to run the 400 at the NCAA regionals. But it's like, all of a sudden he has this fame, right? It's like all of a sudden he's viral. Next thing you know, he has like 50,000 followers on like Twitter and Instagram. So I think for him,
he's a track Zion Williamson.
Right, yeah, and it's like all this happens before prom. So it's like for him, it's like, oh, like all this is new to me. Like, you know, my parents have known him for years, but it's like his senior year is really his breakout year. And now everyone's gonna follow him when he's up here in North Georgia. So I think for him, it's just new. I'm sure, like, you know, once he settles down into like getting all this viral fame, it's like, okay, like, you know, maybe my personality will shine through a little bit more. But I think for him, it's just new.
The girls are coming for you, Matt. Be careful.
Quick question.
What's your question, Jay?
You ain't in Catholic school no more. You ain't UGA.
How long till the Kirby Smart try to get him to come play slot receiver or run kickoffs?
Man, it might be day one. Actually, it might be day one to beat Alabama. They probably get him to beat Alabama,
Well, see, the
bro.
thing is, right, you know, track's a non-contact sport. So I don't know how that's going to fly. And two, like the world championships are late September, early October. That's usually the precursor to the Olympics. The Olympics are next July in Tokyo, Japan. Based on what I've heard, he's already talked to the head coach at UGA about doing an Olympic workout. So I think his mind is set on getting a gold medal for Team USA. Now, I mean, I don't know. Like, I necessarily wouldn't put myself through a football workout and risk hurting my knees for the sport that I'm actually like a beast at, but
yeah,
I mean, we'll see.
I only say that because you know, Andy Isabella was a world-class track, just got drafted. Name a Clemson receiver, they were track.
Yeah, Sammy Watkins,
Marquise Goodwin at Texas.
Yeah, like there's some elite runners. So I wouldn't be surprised if Kirby Smart.
Pounds.
Yeah, that's as much. Marquise Goodwin's like 114. So all I'm saying is
that's not true, Jay.
Yeah,
and then going back,
he's not more than 170. But yeah, I think it'd be interesting to see if they try to make that play.
Yeah.
But if I'm him, I'm probably sticking with track and going to the Olympics.
Yeah, and then like probably getting the shoe deal once I graduate because they pay $6 figures. But going back to Rossano's point,
but
like
you need it.
He's 6'2". You know, like Usain Bolt is 6'5". And that's what I was, you know, in the sprints, like sprinting is a short person sport, or well, average height, like 5'6", 5'7", you know? It's very rare to see somebody that tall running the sprints. Maybe the 400, also, 800, sure, but like the 1-2, like it's usually shorter people. So for him, his stride is his advantage. Like however much power he can get off the ground and like propel forward, like he's at an advantage coming in already. Yeah. But like I said, the SEC is stacked. I think he'll face stiffer competition, but I mean, I think great things are ahead of him. I think he'll be a dominant force in whatever events he decides to do in college and beyond.
What's cool about him is he has this natural ability, but he also, it seems like his technique is a lot different from a lot of the other kids. So he has the height, and he has a natural talent, but he, for some reason, he looks real his technique when his knees hit, when he pushes off when he comes out of his stance, it just looks different. It doesn't look like high school. It looks like maybe college or the pros.
Yeah.
I mean, so he's more advanced. He just is. He's got it.
And I think like that's what a lot of people don't understand about track and field. Like they think, oh, like all you do is run. Like no, running is a very technical sport. Running is a foundation for a lot of the sports that we watch today. And if your technique is off, if you have bad form, anybody can pass you. And we see this a lot, particularly in longer races like the 400. Like when you're watching a 4x4, you can tell if someone's form is off, and it's like, oh man, that gives somebody all the more reason to catch up on them. You know, especially when you're tired. So to have natural speed and to have a solid technique, it's an unmatched combo.
You know who else has unmatched technique? And we're going to switch sports right here, but I want y'all to take a guess. Don't look at the rundown now.
I'm going to say Kawhi Leonard.
Yes,
Oh,
Jay,
man.
you are absolutely correct. And I want you.
And I don't even have the rundown up.
I know.
Look at me.
Gold star.
Pull this up now. Let me go pull this up real quick.
Kawhi Leonard is an absolute technical beast in the NBA. Kawhi Leonard recently hit the game-winning shot against the Philadelphia 76ers over the 7'1" Joel Embiid to win the game and advance the Toronto Raptors to the Eastern Conference Finals. Kawhi Leonard is single-handedly proving why he made the better decision in wanting to get traded and go to the Toronto Raptors. Jay, what's your take on this?
I don't know if it's necessarily made the better decision. I guess to get out the West was a good decision, but I mean, Kyle Lowry's still poo, so it's Kawhi.
But he took Kyle Lowry to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
He did it.
Leaving the West was the good decision. Yes. Okay, I'm with you.
know.
And that's what the decision is. Going to Toronto specifically, I would be like, meh.
I think. Well, let's not forget that Kawhi, if he had not gotten injured, might have beat the Dynasty Golden State Warriors.
Could be.
Might have.
It's an easier road to come out east and have to go through that in the West.
Definitely.
Though. So Kawhi is just different. He is right now. He is playing for a check. He's telling y'all, listen, y'all gonna pay me. Y'all gonna give me all that money. What Russ get? What Westbrook get? He can't get out of the first round. Bet. Give me 50 more million than that. Because he is earning every dime, and boy, did it feel good? Did it look good for him to hit that shot over Embiid too, and then to hit him with the jail pose after that? Like, come on, man!
Not the jail
pose. Come on, he took his tongue out and everything. He sat on the ground. Come on,
right? You saw the blue Gatorade and everything.
Yeah.
What's great about Kawhi being in Toronto is he can be more expressive. You know what I mean? It seems like I'm getting to see a little bit more his personality, a little bit more interviews, a little bit more smile and laughter.
What, that Squidward laugh? That laugh is painful.
It is painful because he's not human. He's not a human. He's an android. Y'all are going to see. But
he says he's a fun guy. I'm like, oh, okay.
Right.
Sure, fun. I guess like fun if you stand on a wall at the party. Like, I don't know.
Chloe, what would you like to say about Kawhi Leonard's performance?
Obviously, I love the game of basketball.
Hold on, let me take a pause for this.
Some more question you have to ask me in order for me to tell you about myself. I just can't give you a whole spiel. I don't even know where you're sitting at.
You sound like Squidward. Oh my god.
Embiid, that's hit a shot over you. They hit a shot over you for a game winner.
Like, I don't know. I personally love Joel Embiid's antics because he's so confident in himself. But
yeah, no, listen,
now are you crying?
We'll get to that.
Listen,
we'll get to
let's
that.
Get back to that because I agree, but I got something to say.
But anyway, how did I feel about it? I was at work watching it, so it was crazy because I had a really tight deadline and my producer was already really stressed out. But I looked up at the screen and I saw the ball bouncing around. And I was like, okay, cool. Maybe this will go to overtime to give me like a little bit more time to export what I'm working on. And that thing fell in. Oh man, like we all were like, I mean, expletives were thrown around the floor. Like I've never seen a shot like that go in. You know, I surely thought it was going to overtime. But yeah, since we did mention Joel Embiid, you know, this was the Eastern Conference semifinals. No. Let me finish. Let me finish, Rossano. Let me finish. I have the floor.
I know where you about to go.
No, you don't.
I know where you about to go.
No, you don't.
Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
This is the Eastern Conference semifinals. I don't think it was the best time to cry into an opponent's arms.
Okay.
Because, like, okay, so my thing is this. During the NBA Finals in 2011, everybody was making fun of Chris Bosh getting on his hands and knees and crying. It's the NBA Finals. I would cry too if I lost the way they did. 2012, yep. Kevin Durant was crying, you know, hugged his mom, and everyone was like, oh, you know, Kevin Durant, like that's a beautiful moment. I'm like, okay, hypocrites, cool. This is the Eastern Conference semifinals. We do not shed tears publicly into an opponent's arms. Now, I will say Marc Gasol was very gracious about it. I think that's what
I replayed that video over and over.
being a nearly 20-year NBA veteran. I did like that Marc Gasol stayed with him during that moment.
Yeah, he's used to losing too. Shout out to Marc Gasol.
Okay.
Here's the thing about Joel Embiid, though. Here's the thing about.
But my thing with Joel is like, you gotta wait till you walk into the locker room. Like, don't let the fans relish in that as they're celebrating. And my thing is, it happens so fast. Like, usually when you're boohoo crying, it takes a minute, you know, for you to get all those tears flowing. For him, it was like a few seconds. So maybe he was nervous that whole sequence, like even when, but I mean, like, surely I thought Jimmy Butler was fouled. I had the game on mute at that point.
Here's the thing about Joel Embiid. If any other player was crying, in the press conference afterwards, he would say something real slick. And that's my beef with him. If you caught Kawhi Leonard crying, which that would never happen. Kyle Lowry, I'm using an example.
Kawhi Leonard produced
Kyle Lowry
years.
crying
Don't try to steal
post-game.
my point. Don't try to steal my point.
I didn't steal it. And that's the thing. I just thought we're on the same page. If a reporter said, "Hey, Joel, Kyle Lowry was crying in the locker room after the game," he would say something the most disrespectful thing he could possibly think of. So he should get all the smoke for crying. You know what I mean? His face needs to replace the Jordan beats.
Every single bit of it.
Yes. Let him know, Jay.
Listen. I'm all for the raw emotion of the moment. I support all that. You can't be a bully, get punched in your mouth, and go cry.
And cry. That's all I'm saying.
That's
You're
all I'm
not
saying.
really a bully.
You can't. And that was, listen, he's still talking crap about Jared Dudley.
Yeah,
Right.
but the second he lose that game and them tears start flowing, no, he thought it wasn't nothing about the game. He just saw his Twitter immediately. It flashed before his eyes. He saw his mentions immediately, flashed before his eyes, and knew he was gonna get roasted.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
And I mean, like,
he did a good job in the series, though. He did do a good job.
He was great. He played good defense on that play too.
At home, because there were some games where he only had 4 points. I was like, wait a minute now. Like, I understand you got flu-like symptoms, but Dirk had the flu. Michael Jordan had the flu. You still got a job, okay? Like, to y'all's point, you can't talk all this smack and not back it up in the playoffs. If you're trying to win a championship, you got to be on every single night.
Facts. Yeah, you can't listen. You can't be so.
And I'm looking at Kyle Lowry stats too. Like, come on.
We roasted Kyle already.
We always gonna roast Kyle Lowry. I'm always gonna roast Kyle Lowry. But you can't have that much bravado and talk all that and everybody knows what slander he would have been ready to fire at everybody on that team. It had the Sixers won that game, but he out here crying. And he wants sympathy. Get out of here.
Get out of here.
Go sit in the corner, bro.
Hey, we giving Joel Embiid.
The memes are coming. The jokes are flying. You signed up for all that. Now, if the Lakers make this trade and try to trade LeBron for Ben Simmons,
that's not happening.
I'm gonna go shut up, sit in the corner.
Hey, Joel
I still don't know
Embiid,
how I feel about that.
You get the on the bench award. Joel, you get the on the bench award from the Pine.
Yeah.
Have a seat.
Trash.
Take a seat. Kyrie and Kevin Durant. There's a lot of speculation about them. New faces in new places. The draft lottery is tomorrow.
Let's go
what
Hawks.
do you think? Go Hawks. Go Knicks.
No,
go Phoenix.
Hawks.
Go Phoenix. Those are my teams that I would love
I need
Zion
Hawks
to
to
go
steal
with.
that number one pick and go ahead and take Zion. Just to
Listen,
ruin your day.
No, you know why I wouldn't ruin my day? Because I would buy a house immediately. I would immediately buy a house in Atlanta, Georgia. Period.
That is
Straight
smart.
up.
Rent it out as an Airbnb
Exactly.
for the next
immediately.
Finals. I see that.
So, what do you guys take on this offseason coming up with Kyrie and Kevin Durant?
You're listening to
Well, I already know I'm about to be working overtime, so that's my take. Well, okay, for our audience members, like Rossano and I, we both work with NBA TV and NBA on TNT. That's our day job. So, I don't know if you were supposed to mention that, but
hey, flex on them.
right, you know, video editor,
I'm the modest one.
doing the thing.
I'm the modest one. I'm just a Joe Blow.
I already know it's about to be it's gonna be some hours poured over this off season. But it's very interesting to me, like how every summer there's always like blockbuster moves and deals. It's exciting as a fan. Now with the Knicks, I get why, I get why there's a lot of speculation around it, right? Because like Kyrie, obviously the thing with the Boston experiment didn't work out. Kevin Durant recently moved his production company to New York. So a lot of people are speculating that, he's gonna make that move to New York. I don't see Kevin there. Like, but then again, I don't really see Kevin at Golden State. I just don't know where he would go because Kevin Durant is so sensitive. And these Knicks fans are not going to play that when he's not playing well. Like Knicks fans, Sixers fans, and Celtics fans, along with Lakers fans. But really those three Northeastern teams, like they're ruthless, and
I lied, Joel Embiid's tears.
Yep.
Right, and it's just, the way they booed the Sixers and Ben Simmons was like, you can't boo us. I'm like, yes, they can. Yes, they can. They've seen a championship before,
And they will boo you.
Yes, they will. So now the Knicks just celebrated the 49th anniversary of their first title.
Yes.
It has been nearly 50
Robert.
years since they won their last title in 1973. So, sometimes they get a little big in the chest and they like to talk about things. But I don't know. It's just like if they go, they have to be aware of the fan base that they are dealing with. You are playing in Madison Square Garden. There's no such thing as a bad day in MSG, and it's just like I don't know if I am sure that is what they are going to sign up for. Like you could say, oh, you know what, I'm ready for this challenge. Like, it's gonna be a big challenge, but I'm ready to accept it. But it's like, look at what happened with Kyrie in Boston. Look at what LeBron's going through at Staples Center, which is another, huge organization. Like the Lakers are the biggest franchise in the NBA. Like this is not easy. This is not easy, and I feel like, if they're really gonna make this move, they really have to think about what it's going to be like in the heat of the moment when all eyes are on them,
Jay, what's your take?
Yeah, I think Kyrie has to think about that. Kevin Durant don't play bad. That's it. He just hates the media, so that's why I wouldn't see him wanting to be in New York, because that's really what his whole life's gonna be, is media. But if the Knicks get the number one pick, which I think the NBA would like, very much so. If they get the number one pick, then I can see that KD Kyrie move definitely happening, definitively. If they were not to get the number one pick, I think it'd be interesting. I think it'd be more interesting to see how that shakes out. I firmly believe Kevin Durant doesn't want to be in Golden State anymore. But I also think that kind of depends on what Draymond Green does, or what they do with Draymond Green. I think he likes Steph. I think he's okay with Clay. I think he hates Draymond. So that'll be interesting to see how that navigates. Kyrie, I think Kyrie has been humbled. I think he realized that, I wanted to be the man and I'm the man, and failed. And I think that he would probably be more inclined to go find another superstar to play with versus wanting to be the lead dog on the team. I wouldn't be surprised to see him try to find his way to LA, to be honest.
I did
read
that.
I think him going back to play with LeBron would be a cop-out. I think LeBron is on his last leg.
He's a flat earther.
No, he is a flat earther. He doesn't. And I love Kyrie. I got a pair of Kyrie shoes. I wore the Kyrie's when he got beat by Milwaukee in that last game. I was disappointed when they lost. You did. You told us. Shout out to Chloe. Chloe, you were on point with that prediction. You cannot come to New York City by yourself. It does not happen. It can work. Carmelo Anthony tried to do it. Stephon Marbury tried to do it.
Strawberry.
All right, both of these guys
Melo got him a division championship.
Yeah, but say it again.
Melo got him a division title.
Yes, he did, with a lot of help.
They got one playoff win.
One playoff win and a lot of help.
I've never seen Spike Lee celebrate like that. That was hilarious.
Right. That's in respect. Me. And I got to give a shout out to Spike Lee, because when Spike Lee won his Oscar, right, in February this year, he did this little numerology thing, right, about, his great-grandmother, his grandmother paying for his college tuition, her being born, where she was being born, when he went to college. He posted something like that on his Instagram page, and I paid attention to that. Spike, if that stuff works and we get Zion Williamson, you need your jersey retired in the Garden, all right? That's what I'm gonna say.
He probably needs his jersey retired in the Garden, period.
That's what I'm saying.
He's giving a lot to the Garden. I had the pleasure of meeting him, shaking his hand. He's an awesome person, an inspirational person in my life. Listen, Spike Lee deserves Zion Williamson. I'm gonna just leave that right there. But in the event that this does not happen and Zion Williamson does not fall to the Knicks in the draft lottery, what's the best place for Zion Williamson to go?
I said Phoenix.
Atlanta.
I like that duo with him and DeAndre Ayton, and then you got Devin Booker in his 5th year, and I don't know. But I feel like the only thing with Phoenix is the fact that they keep changing their coaches. Like, as an organization, that bothers me because you can never build an organizational culture if you keep changing out like the head of the organization, if you will.
I like the Monty Williams pickup though.
I do like that, but it's like this will be Devin Booker's 5th coach in 5 seasons. So it's like there's a lot of dysfunction that's underneath all that. So it's like, would that necessarily work?
My beef with Phoenix is that they always ignore the point guard position.
Yeah, that too.
They keep ignoring the point guard. So go draft Ja Morant and stop. Stop ignoring the point. You just drafted Josh Jackson at the same position already. You got Devin Booker.
And he's not there
Devin
anymore.
Booker try to play point guard. Josh Jackson.
I'm thinking of another Jackson. Sorry, he's in Dallas.
Stop making Devin Booker try to play point guard and 2 guard. Like, let him just be the scorer, play off ball. He can and play to his strengths. Go get Ja Morant, get that backcourt situated. Then you got talent already in the front court with Ayton. Let Zion go be Zion somewhere else. So that's why I'm saying like Atlanta potentially is a better fit, just because they don't have that other wing. They don't really have a wing at all, realistically. To go with what you have with Trey and with John Collins, go ahead and get Zion if you had the opportunity. I don't know who else is going to be in that top, or really has a chance of getting like the top 5 pick. Who else is in that conversation? There's maybe like 10 teams that can get it. Like Memphis can get it. Washington can go. New Orleans it can happen for New Orleans. It can happen for Phoenix. It can happen for Chicago.
Yeah,
Washington would be interesting.
The worst case scenario for Zion probably would, in my opinion, would be for him to go to Washington. I think that's true dysfunction. I think that it's an issue because they have max contracts with players that are injured. In John Wall, they have guys that are fringe stars in Bradley Beal, and you can't really develop as a star player. Zion Williamson is worth $100 million right now for any franchise. And that's not what they're going to be paying him on his rookie deal. But the shoe deals that he gets, the merchandising, the advertising, he is an individual that is a meal ticket for any NBA franchise. And I think New York can handle that with the infrastructure that's there, with the market. I think Cleveland doesn't deserve it because Cleveland had LeBron James, and that paid off. But they also had Andrew Wiggins, Anthony Bennett.
Oh boy.
They also had Kyrie Irving. So they've had their seat at the table. Phoenix had DeAndre Ayton last year, right? And to get 2 number ones back to back, that just doesn't seem right.
Well, Cleveland got 2 number ones, to your point.
Right, and that's why I said they're not that franchise. Those franchises had their shots. They've had their time to eat.
Got that pick
Chicago had Jordan,
Anthony Davis.
Right?
Wow.
Chicago had Jordan.
I just think the way Anthony Davis handled his whole future, knowing that it's not totally in his control, I just think that relationship is fractured. With New
for sure,
Orleans.
but they own some of that too.
Yeah, but I just don't see him staying.
Do you guys believe that anybody would trade this first overall pick?
Why would they?
No.
Why would they?
I know.
Maybe
if you could get Anthony
if Washington,
Davis.
like a Washington, maybe got that pick, I could see them trying to upgrade and get some other pieces potentially.
I know Dallas may potentially trade their pick in the lottery to Atlanta. From what I'm reading, but I don't know. I don't know who would trade the number 1 pick.
If New Orleans
What if the Lakers got it? I'd be upset.
Right, it would be completely rigged. It would be completely rigged. But they have a 2% chance, and you can't discount anything. I've been on.
Yeah, Miami has a 1% chance. Shout out to my Heatles.
Y'all had y'all shot with D Wade.
That's all right. He retired.
There's certain franchises that have eaten and they've been in the shine. The Knicks and the Hawks have not had that opportunity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
They have not. Period.
I just think he has to get to a place where he's going to be made a focal point in terms of development, and not expected to go be the man right out the gate.
Yeah, and
he's going to be
those two places are New York and Atlanta. Now I still don't think he would be the man in Atlanta though. I think Trae Young. This is Trae Young City.
I think he have more room to be able to kind of land a little bit with Trae Young and John Collins there. With the Knicks having Dennis Smith there, DeAndre Jordan stays, having some infrastructure there and a good coach.
Yeah, I like
Cleveland. Cleveland is a mess.
Cleveland's been a mess.
They're gonna continue to be a mess. That's what I'm saying. Like that now, the Beeline hire is gonna be interesting to see what that looks like in terms of how that maybe galvanizes that team, having such an experienced coach. But that roster is a mess. So him going there would be a mess for him.
Listen, we shall see. The draft is tomorrow. Either way, I win. If he falls to New York or Atlanta, we shall see what happens. Frank Vogel was
boo.
No, that's real. Frank Vogel was appointed the Los Angeles Lakers head coach with the Hall of Famer Jason Kidd as his assistant coach on a dysfunctional Los Angeles Lakers team.
Boy, this could be dysfunction.
This super dysfunction. Jason Kidd has ties with LeBron James. They played on an Olympic team before and were successful. They were part of the Redeem team. Jason Kidd is notoriously known for being a really good personality to have in your locker room, somebody that players connect to, and he's successful. He's won a championship. He's won a gold medal. He's accomplished in his own right. People compared Lonzo Ball to Jason Kidd, so I understand why the Lakers got him as an assistant, but I don't understand why they got Frank Vogel. Can you guys shed some light on it for me?
Honestly, I personally didn't mind the hire. Now, it's funny because Los Angeles is dysfunctional, and I didn't think it would get any worse than Cleveland, but here we are. With Frank Vogel, he has a defensive prowess, and to go back to how everything kind of connects to LeBron. He did coach against LeBron in the Eastern Conference Finals in 2012, and then the East Semis the next year, back when he had Paul George. And, he had to work with people like Roy Hibbert. So, for him to push it to 6 games in both of those series, I mean, obviously he's very well versed defensively. Offensively is where the issue is. And maybe that's where Jason Kidd comes in. He had experience coaching the Milwaukee Bucks with a very young Giannis Antetokounmpo. And I know, some people do believe that by hiring Jason Kidd as the assistant, that, maybe in a few years, Frank Vogel may be out and then they just make Jason Kidd the interim and then later the permanent head coach. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see this work. What I do like most about these hires is that they found somebody from outside the Lakers organization. I think they need somebody who has an objective lens on the Lakers to clean up this organization and really have an objective view on how LA pushes forward. The problem is they both come from areas that were not big market teams. Frank Vogel was in a very small market Indiana. Jason Kidd was in a very small market Milwaukee. He beat LeBron in 2011 in a small market Dallas. So I think that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But I think just from a non-Laker standpoint, that was the best things out there, to be honest. And I think with Jason,
he's an upgrade from Luke Walton.
And I think
he has a better winning percentage. He's got more success. Luke Walton is kind of a legacy hire.
Yeah,
that they did.
And I think with Jason Kidd, it's getting a job in the NBA is hard. I think a lot of people fail to realize getting a head coaching job in the NBA is hard. And I know we're going to talk about Mark Jackson eventually, but look at him. You know what I'm saying? So for Jason Kidd to be an assistant, I would take that job. Sure, I won't be the head coach of LA, but I'm gonna get some experience to where maybe I'll be the head coach at some point in later in my career, but let me learn at least and let me help this team grow and try to get a championship.
You're listening to the pod.
Jay, what's your take?
Well, with the Jason Kidd part, I mean, he's had 2 opportunities already to be a head coach, and he fumbled the Nets thing, trying to do the whole little, let me bring in Lawrence Frank, and then let me sabotage Lawrence Frank 12 days into him being a coach.
Is this gonna happen again?
It's just weird. It's just in his personal life struggles. Like, everybody has a path to redemption, but he is his own biggest enemy. So it will be interesting to see. I think it's going to be a mess, personally. I think Frank Vogel is a very good basketball coach. A very solid basketball coach. What he did in Indiana with the superstar was good. It was successful. He challenged LeBron briefly. Went to Orlando and failed miserably. But he also didn't have the same talent around there to be able to coach. So it'll be interesting to see. I think Jason Kidd can be a good basketball influence on some of those players, like Alonzo Ball, if they keep him.
Yeah.
That would be great, but I just see it being a mess. It's going to be a mess. It's going to be a messy offseason in LA. There's going to be a whole looming thing about LeBron James and what do you do with him? Do you trade him because he doesn't have a no trade clause? How do you go down as a team that traded LeBron James away? Like, all that stuff is just going to be interesting to see.
I'll actually go on a whim and say if Jason Kidd, I don't think Frank Vogel's going to be there long term. I honestly don't think that this is going to be Frank Vogel's ship. I don't think it's going to be run like that. The Lakers organization, as we've seen, a lot of people have their hands in the pot. So I feel like it's an all hands on deck kind of thing, kind of hire with both of these guys. I believe that if everybody stays together, if I think Frank Vogel and Jason Kidd stay in their respective spots, or even if Frank Vogel leaves, the Lakers are making the playoffs next season, no matter what. I do not see LeBron James missing the playoffs again. That won't happen. That's my hot take.
Now, what I've thought about with the Lakers, and I guess I can ask you guys, who do you think they get in the offseason to join LeBron? Me personally, I think Kemba Walker. But what do you guys think?
I believe that Anthony Davis should be their number one priority to get. But if you can get like a Vucevic to come to Los Angeles and help LeBron as an inside presence, they don't have a center. They have plenty of guards, but they don't have a guy that can post up and shoot the three. Like, LeBron needs that. LeBron needs a Kevin Love. LeBron needs a Chris Bosh to be successful and win titles. And when he doesn't have that, he's not successful. Vucevic is somebody that I could see going. That would rip the heart out of Orlando, but that's the only person in this offseason. And I want to say it's maybe like 10 guys that are solid. He's the only guy that I can see possibly going to Los Angeles. So that would be my take.
They have no say in Anthony Davis, and the Pelicans ain't doing that.
Right? Yeah, they won't trade him.
I'm saying Vucevic is the only person I say.
Well, yeah. So, what's his contract status?
Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis has.
Vucevic.
Vucevic is a free agent after the season.
That might be interesting. I mean, they were trying to trade him last year, and then he went off. So
he went off. He played for that money.
But that also ruined Mo Bamba's development too. So
right.
It's gonna be it will be interesting to see what they do with that.
Vucevic is in the last year of his 4-year contract. He was getting paid 4-year, $53 million, $12 million last year, and he deserves it back now.
I think
Los Angeles has that opportunity. They have the money.
Make a play for Kemba. I think they're definitely gonna make a play for Kemba, but I think if Kyrie showed any interest, then they would drop Kemba in a heartbeat and go right for Kyrie to put him back with LeBron, 100%.
So then the Jason Kidd Lonzo Ball project is out.
Yeah, well, I think then they look at trading Lonzo or trading Kuzma or trading Brandon Ingram. I think you're going to see veteran players come into LA.
Okay.
Yeah, and plus, like, Orlando has Evan Fournier, and I think they owe him like $34 million over the next 2 seasons. So, yeah, it'd probably be best for them to find a landing spot for Vucevic. But you guys said he was a free agent anyway, so
he's a free. He is this is his free agent year. He will test free agency.
Man, that might not be bad.
I can see it happening, Paul Gasol came to Los Angeles as a Euro guy and was very successful.
He was also
LeBron
traded
needs
there.
shooters, and they don't have any centers. They don't have it. And if I would throw the bag at him, to be honest with you, I don't know if he can handle that pressure. You know, I don't know I don't know if you give him a max deal. But I would give him a Clint Capella deal. Absolutely, I would.
I think Vucevic ends up in Memphis.
Okay.
Yeah, Memphis has a need now that Mark's not there.
We shall see. This is why this offseason is so interesting. Damian Lillard has ascended. He's arrived. He will be playing in the Western Conference Finals against the beast mode, Dr. Manhattan, overpowered Golden State Warriors. All right. Dame has impressed me this year. I remember in college, my old roommate would be like, "Man, this guy Damian Lillard, he's a beast." And I was like, "Well, he's nice. You know, he's in a small market. I see him balling out, but I haven't seen him on the big stage do anything." I know Damian Lillard is licking his chops right now for the opportunity to showcase his talents against the Golden State Warriors and against Steph Curry, somebody who's overshadowed him for the longest time. Most of the time when guards get to go up against Steph Curry, they show out because they know that he's the golden child. What do you guys predict will happen in this series with Golden State taking on Portland, and Golden State is down Kevin Durant for the first game, at least?
Well, I know Kevin Durant, they said he's out for game 1, most likely for game 2. So KD won't be at home. I think I'm going to put Warriors in 6. I just felt like in this last series, Damian Lillard, he showed up in some games, but then in other games he was kind of absent. And I think the X factor for Portland is going to be CJ McCollum. Because had CJ not stepped up, I don't think this would have gone all the way to 7. And I don't think they would have pulled out the win in Denver in 7. I think it's going to be interesting seeing Steph versus Seth. I know Sonya's going to have a heart attack. I don't know who she's going to cheer for. But I'm excited to see Seth come off the bench and try to go toe-to-toe against his brother. And then you also have to consider that Portland may not have Rodney Hood. Rodney Hood was clutch during that 4 overtime game 3 against Denver, and he hyperextended his knee, so we don't know how long he'll be out. And then, I mean, in terms of other injuries, Enes Kanter has a separated shoulder. I think he's going to, show out and get his, but how long can he? How big is his pain threshold going to be? And then, going through Ramadan and not being able to eat or drink anything during certain times of the day, like that's a huge factor too. Golden State Game 6 told me everything I needed to know about Golden State. Even without Kevin Durant, they have stuck to the same motto for the past 5 seasons, strength in numbers. And without KD, it shocked them for a little bit, for like 3 minutes, Game 5. But after that, it was all cylinders. It was like every man has to step up. Steve Kerr had to reach deep into his bench, but Klay Thompson didn't want to go home. Steph Curry, he was struggling in the first half and then went off for 33 points in the second half, proving exactly why he is the kind of player that we thought he was when people doubted him. That told me everything I needed to know about Golden State. I just feel like even with Houston's best effort, they came up short. And I feel like the same thing's gonna happen with Portland. I think it will be a longer series, but I still think it'll go 2-6. And I think, just given Golden State's championship experience and the fact that they've been really battle tested this year with their backs against the wall, losing DeMarcus Cousins, who may come back, losing Kevin Durant, and we don't know his timetable. It's just hard to stop a behemoth in Golden State.
Portland is only as good as Dame and CJ are going to play. They absolutely need both of them to show up, because if only one of them shows up, they're going to lose. And if they both don't show up, definitively they're going to get blown out, without a doubt. Dame in the last series, the one game he didn't show up in the last series that they won was Game 7. And it's because CJ went off. But outside of that, Game 2, 14 points, loss. Game 5, 22 points is next lowest total outside of Game 7, loss. Game 7, CJ had to go superhero for them to win by 4. So if him and CJ don't show up, it's a sweep.
For me, they're not gonna win, right? Like it's really them boosting their legacy. It's really them boosting their personal brand. Because I don't see anybody beating Golden State Warriors. Like Dame has made a lot of money this playoffs outside of his like regular contract. Just because he was able to showcase his talents. Things that people don't see on a day-to-day from him because they're a small market. They don't have the national games. He got to sell a lot more shoes. He got to sell a lot more jerseys. He got a lot more endorsements. As we know, I think he's with Hulu, right?
Yeah,
Hulu has live sports.
sports.
So, Hulu pay us because we just gave you a shout out.
Get that.
But that's how I feel what this is going to be. I see Portland still in maybe one or 2 games.
Well, they split the regular season series 2-2. So
if
Dame went off in every one of those games,
right? And if Dame does it, he really should be like all of the Giannis for MVP and all of the Harden for MVP. That needs to be reevaluated because if he can beat the Golden State Warriors with the squad that he has, you gotta look at your votes again.
100%. But again,
it's going to take late for that.
It's late in the game, but
that's why they need a playoffs MVP. I wish they had one.
It's going to take a Herculean effort.
I would scrap it. If Dame beats Golden State, I'm scrapping everybody that was MVP. And they need to redo a recount.
I don't know. The other thing about Damian Lillard that kind of worries me is I noticed this like 5 years ago. Like after he hit the series-ending shot, it's like you didn't really hear from him after that. And it's like, even here, like he was really streaky with his Denver series. So it's like, can Dame, and this is Portland's first Western Conference Finals since 2000. And back when Golden State hadn't made a Western Conference Finals in 40 years, they were able to get the win against Houston. But it's going to be really interesting because it's like you're facing a championship squad. Like this, it is no easy task in the West Finals. So for me, I think, to y'all's point, it's gonna ride heavily on Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum showing up.
I want something crazy to happen. I want Golden State to lose. They've been blessed for the last half decade. So if Portland went to the finals, that would be great because it would just create complete chaos. And Durant is definitely leaving, and Clay definitely might think about leaving, and Draymond is gone. So what I thought was going to happen was Boston was going to go and beat Golden State. That was my thought process. I sound really crazy now. But for me, I'm looking forward to... We already know the Golden State Warriors are great. We already know they got championships. But I want to see what the next decade of the NBA is going to look like and shape out to be. And I know for a fact that Golden State losing prematurely would change just the whole power structure for the next 10 years. So, that's what I'm thinking. We're going to wrap it up. You guys got anything motivational to say to the people?
Trust your process. I know I hate to quote the Philadelphia 76ers in their time of need, but even before that was their motto. Oprah used to say that a lot. Just definitely trust your timing. I know for a lot of people, it's graduation season, shout out to all my college graduates, but now the next step is what am I going to do for the rest of my life? And what you think what you want or what you think you want may not come when you want it, but it'll come when you're ready. So in the meantime, stay ready so you don't have to get ready, and just trust your process and trust your timing, and you'll be amazed at how things work out.
Yep. Never stop being a good person just because you've been interacted with or been influenced by a bad person.
I got one for y'all. So the next time you feel like the world's about to end, I hope you study because he's testing your faith again. Kendrick Lamar.
Nice.
We all our stuff